Hi, my name is Sergio Salinas, and my toxic trait is that the day before I travel for a long trip, I hardly get any sleep because I underestimate how long it takes me to pack.
Hi, my name is Lisa Covey, and my toxic trait is when I hop on a video call with you, I'm going to wave to you when I get on, and then I'm going to wave to you when I get off.
Hi, I'm Francis, and my toxic traits are overthinking and worrying too much. For example, I'm in bed trying to sleep, and then I remember, did I submit the reports that I'm supposed to submit, or did I send the email that I'm supposed to send? Even though I checked everything before I log out, I still couldn't sleep until I check it one more time.
Hey, my name is Emily, and my toxic trait is doing the most. I'm way too competitive about everything. You want to have a competition, a scavenger hunt? I'm gonna jump out of a van to get to clue first. You want to have a competition to see who can get the best client? It's gonna be me. I'm gonna do the most. I hate to tell you, I'm just gonna do the most, and that's my toxic trait. Oh, and the fact that I will eat cheese no matter what, even though I'm lactose intolerant.
Hi, my name's Brianna. My toxic trait is that I use all the emojis all the time, like they're going out of style.
Hi everyone, my name is Chuck Myers, and my toxic trait actually was given a label by my daughter when she was probably around 10 years old. We were talking about something that she was very excited about, and I did what I do, which is bring reality to it. And she got so upset about that reality that she said, "Dad, you're just a dream killer." And from that moment on, everyone in my family, anytime they brought something up, if I had anything other than just 100% support for it, they just called me the dream killer. Now, ironically, shedding light on reality is something I actually get paid to do as part of my job now. All right, Dream Killer, signing off.
Hi, my name is Tanya Joseph, and my toxic trait is I have to check my bank balances every morning before I start my day.
Hello everyone, my name is Bob Reeves, and I've been asked to pick out one toxic trait about myself from a list of so many. I think I'm gonna go with the fact that I'm a bit of a pack rat. I will hold on to anything that could possibly have a remote amount of sentimental value somewhere down the road. So, for example, here's a World of Coca-Cola bottle I just found in the back of my refrigerator from 2009. But I think I'm going to take some steps forward now, and, I'm going to drink it. I feel like I'm growing. Now I feel like I'm going to be sick.
Hey Team Acuity, this is Elise, and my toxic trait, I'd have to say, is relying too much on caffeine, specifically this. Some of you may be able to relate.
Hi, I'm Hamima, and my toxic trait is I'm a very straightforward person. Sometimes I forget to say hi and just go directly to my point.
Hi team, so my toxic trait is when things get hectic, sometimes I respond in my head without realizing I haven't actually verbalized my response or typed. So just in case I haven't got back to you, just know I've already responded in my head. Just give me about an hour.
Hi, I'm Tamara Staggs, and my toxic trait is my face often speaks before my mouth does.
Hello, my name is Sharon Pierce, and my toxic trait is that I love zombie movies, all of them. World War Z, Walking Dead, Train to Busan, I Am Legend, every single one of them I've seen and have enjoyed.
Oh, the only way you can follow that is to give stuff away. Ryan, do you want to come while we're doing that? I just wanted to do another shout out to one of our tech partners. Rippling sponsored the hybrid experience this year. So all the folks that are hybrid, it's been enhanced by Rippling coming out. So we also need a phone a friend. We're going to phone a friend in St. Lucia. But while we're doing that, we've got the giveaway is the JBL speaker. So we have three lovely cans here. We got hopefully Xenia and St. Lucia joining us too, because we got the whole team there. So they've got one of these there. Do you want to go, which order do you want to go in? Philippines, St. Lucia, or US?
Let's do Philippines first.
Philippines first. So here we go. Oh, that's St. Lucia. They're marked. So there's actual names in here, folks. Everybody has an equal chance of winning. So tell us who is winning the Acuity JBL full-size speaker.
The Philippines winner is Sheila Asos.
Sheila. Okay, we'll get you that. We got the degree of difficulty for pronunciation for Ryan going. Do we have Xenia on Zoom by chance, buddy? All right, can you put her on Zoom for us? And we'll do the US one, and then she could do the other one. All right, there's St. Lucia coming to us in just a second. Hey, Xenia.
Hopefully this person.
Hi, Matthew.
The U.S. winner is Tisa Menendez.
Woo! You want to take that to Tisa?
You're okay? Watch her.
Yeah, she's over there. Xenia, do you have the thing here, or do we need to pick here for you all? So do you have a way to pick?
I have a way to pick, if that's okay.
All right.
I have a little Ziploc bag with names in it.
Okay, that works. So shuffle the Ziploc bag and pick from St. Lucia who is our JBL speaker winner.
Shuffling, audit, purposes.
Who was it?
Okay.
Oh, okay, all right, she didn't pick yet. I was like looking down. Can you give that one to Kelly so she knows who to get? And the winner is? Esther? All right, get Esther on here. Woo! St. Lucia team, awesome. Cool. Thank you, Xenia. We'll see you tomorrow. Good to see you. Okay, that's exciting. We got 18 people live in St. Lucia, so that's for those of you that are picking destinations to travel, I highly recommend St. Lucia. We talked about our priorities for 2024, and we talked a little about curiosity and being measured, and we thought there's no better way to go to market with AI and to be ahead of the curve than to do it with our technology partners. We've been fortunate enough to be on the advisory councils for Bill.com, or now Bill. This is going to take a while, guys, okay? We've gotten to be on the advisor council into it as well. So we've gotten to see some behind the scenes of what they're doing with AI. And Blake has come from Process Street to show us what's going on there. And our other Blake, this is not an AI version of Blake. Blake luckily can join us. He had COVID diagnosis, so he was like, instead of getting everybody at AcuityCon sick, I still want to do this. So Blake Oliver from Earmark is here to join us, and we're going to co-moderate an AI panel. So Blake of formerly Cloud Accounting Podcast fame, now Earmark and Just Accounting Podcast fame. Blake, thank you for joining us. Can you hear us okay?
Matthew, I hear you great. Hi, everyone. Hello, Acuity. Great to be here.
Awesome. So Blake, I think we wanted to start off kind of with some levity. And you said you thought AI could pull off a joke for AcuityCon. Did AI pull it off, or you got one for us?
We're going to find out. We're going to see if the audience here actually enjoys a joke that is created by AI. And I've got a few things here. First, that welcome video that you and Kenji did, Matthew?
Yeah.
Well, I put that through a translator. And this could be humorous, or it might be very accurate. I have no idea because I don't speak Filipino. But perhaps some of your Acuity people will be able to tell us in Slack if the 11 Labs AI actually translated what you and Kenji did.
Okay.
What do you think? Should we play it?
So yeah, we can play a Filipino version of our SSNL update version. Here we go.
All right, here we go. This is a short clip.
Everybody in the Philippines, you're going to have to get on Slack and tell us if this is okay.
Ang verbase yung mabis first naman first na opisin. Tuaw sa praso na yun, ang rin kong sabihin ang mga pajamas ay hindi pa nakaramdam ng ganito ka-professional.
Yeah, no, ang pinakamagandang bahagi ng iyong trabaho mula sa bahay na pamumuhay.
Definitely ang kalayaan. Alam mo, minsan ang aking opisina ay ang basement, ibang oras naman ay kung saan ang wifi ay pinakamaraming binibigay. Niyache är som special na berättelse that hägt från den mastet lag tubig umaga. Det står så that almost gawit sa amang sariwang itlog. And ito ay parang nagpapabawas ng bigat ng aking mga tinabasang Slack na mga mensahe.
Ngunit ang pagtatrabaho mula sa bahay ay dapat may sariling set ng mga hamon, tama?
Oo, talaga, absolutamente. Walang kasamahan para bigyan ako ng tingin na nagsisimula na ang meeting, nag-resort ako sa pag-set ng ilang mga alarm sa aking telepono tuwing umaga. Toddling for...
Oh my goodness. So
how do we do?
So somebody's got to get on Slack and say, so we'll talk about this in a second. Blake's got a kind of a list of things that AI might be good for in the future, but translations on the list. So that's kind of like a fun way to get started. That's a technology where you upload the video and you pick the language and it tries to move your lips and it changes the language to the language you're trying to translate into in a couple of clicks. It's kind of unreal. So thanks for finding that for us, Blake. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, I think we have one of the things I thought, did you get a joke too? Did you do the joke?
Oh, yeah. So one of the things I like to do when I give presentations about artificial intelligence is I'm not very funny. So I ask AI to help write a joke for me. So I gave it a try. I've got a few examples of jokes that AI has written, and I wanted to try them out on you. What do you guys say?
Oh, that sounds good.
All right. So, why did the accountant get in trouble for expense reports when working remotely?
Oh no.
He claimed her entire house as a home office.
Oh. That's pretty rough.
Yeah, and I wanted to know exactly what that looked like, so I had AI, create the example of what that might look like.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
every room's an office now. This image actually was generated by ChatGPT through its DALL-E integration, which just came out. So I gave the joke to ChatGPT, which it created. It created the joke, the bad joke, and then it created this image, which is actually better than the joke, if you ask me. It seems to be better at making.
That's way better than the joke.
Jokes.
That's awesome.
All right, here I got another one. Let me try another one. Maybe this one's good.
Okay.
Maybe this will get more laughs than groans. How did the accountant feel when the internet went down during a remote meeting? Out of connection.
Yeah,
I hear the booze.
Hey, Blake warned me. He was like, then he's done this before. He's like, these are going to come out as dad jokes, guys. It's going to be like a really, really bad. Oh, is this the image that came out with that?
Oh. This is the image it came up with when I gave it the joke back.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool.
All right, so and here's the last one. This one, actually, I think it did okay on, but I'll let you be the judge of that. And I had to do more than 3, by the way. I did like a dozen. What did one Acuity accountant say to the other?
I don't know.
I'm feeling a bit off balance sheet today.
Okay, we'll give you... Well, so batting 333 in the major leagues, you'd be okay. In normal life, not so much. All right, that's awesome. Well, cool.
Yeah.
Well, I had picked through some of your slides. Can you guys go to the slides? I don't know that I've shown Blake this. Blake, I thought you could give us like your kind of like how you see some of these models working, kind of using this slide in your deck on just some language and some of the things and what is AI when we're talking about it.
Yeah. So the way I like to think about AI is basically a really fancy autocomplete. And if you go on Google and you start typing in a search, you may have noticed this, that it will autocomplete your search based on what it thinks you're looking for. Or if you're typing a message in iMessages, now it'll suggest how to complete it. Same thing on the Android phones as well. We're seeing this crop up everywhere. And that came before any of this generative AI stuff did. And really, all this generative AI, when you type into ChatGPT or you put something into Claude, that's essentially what it's doing, just at a next level. These GPTs, generative pre-trained transformers, are using LLMs, large language models, to take your input and create an output based on a bunch of mathematical relationships between the tokenized version of what you entered. So essentially, you enter a prompt, the GPT creates tokens that represent all of the relationships between the words that you have put in, and then it feeds that into a mathematical model, and the output is based on statistics. So it's not thinking about anything. It's not conscious. It is really just auto-completing, in a way, what you put in, or it's predicting the appropriate response.
Yeah, and when I was watching Blake come up with the jokes, he didn't come up with those, but he was showing me how he came up with jokes. It was very iterative. He would ask it a very, very detailed question, because he's been working with a lot of the AI more than a lot of us. Very, very detailed questions. I have an event in Atlanta, Georgia, with an accounting community. Their name is Acuity. They specialize in e-commerce, crypto, SaaS, professional services. They have a conference with 100 people. I'm going to be remote. Can you give me a joke to start with? And then it was really bad. And then he would train it. He would say like, okay, make it funnier. Or he would be like, come on, a little less corny. Or what? I mean, he had more specific prompts. But to the point that he's making, it was very autocomplete, formatted from that perspective. So that was pretty cool from just watching how he was interacting with the tool. So that's awesome. So I know we have another slide with kind of some of the use cases like that you said, like, and I've heard you talk about this all the time, what GPT is good at, which is the one we think of, but really GPT is kind of the broader term. Can you kind of go through some of these?
Sure. Well, we know it's not very good at writing jokes, and that's because it really isn't creative. Even though you saw me use it for a bunch of creative purposes, ChatGPT can't create anything new. Generative AI is leveraging what's already in the database. So it's not good at doing anything truly new. What it is good at is repurposing or rewording or summarizing something that you give it. And that's where we got this list from. That's basically what it does. So when it creates content generation is what you hear about it being used for, writing social media posts or blog posts or summarizing articles. That content generation is really just taking strings of words that it already has in its database and using that to generate new ones based on the prompt you've given it. We can see this work actually effectively in very simple customer service tasks, number 2 on the list. Just answering a client's very simple question that's been answered 1,000 times. If the answer is in the database, instead of sending the client or the customer to an article, it can actually pull that information from an article and give it directly to that person. And you might see this start cropping up in Google. Google is now doing this. Instead of giving you all the links at the top, it'll summarize the answer for you based on generative AI. Awesome. Translation.
We already saw translation at work, right? That's awesome.
But it's not just translation among languages. It can be translation from complex to simple. And a great example of that would be, and this is something that anyone can try, take a complex accounting standard or perhaps a tax law and copy and paste that into one of these AIs and ask it to explain it to you in plain English. It does a really good job of that, and I think that's a great use case today.
Yeah, we've played with that where we say ask for it in a 5th grade level. At an 8th grade level, you can ask ChatGPT to converse with you in pirate. No, that's not as practical, but it makes for a funny read when you're reading tax code. Arr, mateys. So.
I'm a big fan of the email drafting and summarization. What I've started doing now is using text-to-speech on my phone or my computer, and then putting that into ChatGPT or Claude.ai and asking it to write the email for me based on what I dictated. Yeah. So you can also put in bullet points and ask it to generate an email.
And
That's
I think,
really
and
useful.
I think we've seen this with Sasha and Mary Margaret and Tyler have all talked to me about using this from content generation, from an email generation perspective, where we're seeing people starting to use this in practice. I know several of you probably have messed around with ChatGPT, but we're actually using it, especially in the sales and marketing team already. So that's pretty exciting. They're kind of cutting edge. That's where the non-private data is, right? So they've been the leaders kind of on our team doing that.
Another example might be, let's say you've got a little bit of bad news that you need to give to a client. You're not sure how to break that. You could actually ask something like Grammarly to reword your email to be a little more sympathetic, or to perhaps break the news better.
It's a new version of counting to 4 or 5 before you send an email too. Like
That's right.
Like I think I'm a little upset when I wrote this email. Can you tone it down for me, ChatGPT? Like this will save
a really
some,
good use case.
some relationships with some clients, right? Awesome. And I think we're going to see some of these too. Data analysis, hopefully. We'll see some customer service, some content. We've got some of these cool guys coming up to do some of this stuff. Any of these other ones you want to highlight?
I would just say education and training. Let's skip to the end. I think that AI, for me personally, AI has been a really great teacher, tutor. When I don't know how to do something, or I'm not sure if I'm doing it the right way, I can ask. I can also take something that I've written and I can drop it in and say, hey, what am I missing here? What am I not thinking about? And even if it doesn't get me the right answer, it gets me on the path to get that right answer. So I'd encourage you to use it as a brainstorming tool or a soundboard, especially when we're all at home working remotely. It can be a really great way to get a quick answer, and you don't have to wait around to get that.
That's awesome.
You still want to, of course, you want to have, talk to your colleagues. I'm not saying don't do that, but I think it's a great way to get quick answers on things.
So this was my favorite list from Blake's presentation. Blake's done some keynotes on AI. This is my favorite list. When I'm thinking about how we're going to be thinking about using AI next year, I'm going to be referring back to this list. As these are the optimal ways to start thinking about how the first ways we're going to use AI, right? These are the first things to do. So when we're seeing these next 3 examples, be thinking of this list, and I think you'll see some of these that have been bolded. It's not translation. Translation was for the fun video, but like some of these other things that are coming up, I think you'll start seeing how you're going to be able to use these this quarter and next year with some of our tech partners. This is always the spooky slide. I don't know why everybody says this. This was from your deck. Blake, can you give some context on where this came out? It talked about industries that were going to be affected by AI.
Yeah, so I don't know if any of you saw the big headline earlier this year about how accountants and auditors are 100% exposed to generative AI. That was a scary figure. And I want to tell you all that you don't need to be scared by that. And here's why. Even though OpenAI did say that, it doesn't mean that 100% of our jobs are going to be automated by this generative AI. What it means is that 100% of the tasks we do day to day as accountants and auditors could be automated by 50% with the use of AI and technology. So think about that. That means that your 8-hour day, 4 hours of that could be automated by AI. And I think actually that's a great thing, because a lot of the work that we do in accounting is really boring, to be honest. It's the reason that people don't want to be accountants, and it's the reason that people leave accounting, because of that tedious work. Those of us who love accounting have figured out how to get around it, right? We have come up with ways of coping with it so that we get to do what we love. For me, it was always I'd put on music and I'd listen to music while I would grind through transactions. But in an ideal world, we shouldn't have to do that kind of grind work. And AI is going to help us get away from that. So I'm really excited about how the jobs of bookkeepers, accountants, and auditors, tax professionals are going to get more and more rewarding, because we'll be able to review and approve the work that the AI has done and then move on to something that's a little more insightful or exciting.
Well, cool. Well, Blake, are you ready to get into our tech partners? We got 3 lined up, and I don't know if you saw this. We used your generative AI photo here. So our first guest, our first guest,
that's me as Ken.
Oh yeah, that's you as the Ken doll. That's right. Kenji was giving us context in the first session. So hopefully we're using all of our hybrid abilities because Ramey, the VP of Product at Bill, is at Money 2020 in Las Vegas. So hopefully we have given him the right Zoom link, and we can bring him up next to Blake over here, buddy. Are we okay to do that? Do we have? I can't see, buddy. Oh, yeah, we got you. All right, awesome. We've got them. We can kill the slides because he's going to be running his demo from there. Thank you for joining us from Las Vegas, man. Welcome to AcuityCon 2023. There we go.
I appreciate you guys having me.
Hey, we were at the Bill.com Partner Council. You did this phenomenal presentation about how you're incorporating AI into the product and how that's kind of your role since you've come over from founding Finmark and kind of bringing some AI potential to Bill. Sorry, can't not say Bill.com, apologize. To Bill. So do you want to just, how do you want to kick us off? Do you want to talk about your theory first, or do you want to jump into your demo and get us to fire a question at you?
Yeah. Why don't I kick it off? I didn't bring the slides just to keep it more conversational with you guys. I'll introduce myself a little bit more. My name is Rami Assad, SVP of Product here at Bill. I own the accounts payable, spend and expense products. I also own Insights AI and the FP&A cash flow planning product that was what Matthew mentioned, Finmark. That was my startup that Bill bought back in November. That's going to be coming out and integrated into the Bill.com ecosystem. Bill ecosystem. I can't do it. I can't stop myself from doing it either.
That's all right. Maybe AI will help us one day.
Yeah. And so maybe I'll start with talking a little bit about our AI strategy, what we're thinking about when we talk about AI at Bill. Bill, as a company, has been using AI for quite a long time, right? Everything from the OCR when you upload an invoice and how we extract the data out of that invoice to how we match people, vendors across the network, and so much more. That's been a long-standing part of our core platform. What has changed, I think, and you guys, I heard kind of the tail bit of that, of the conversation earlier, is generative AI is now really making a step change impact on how we think about software. I know a lot of people, I mean, you showed the slide, a lot of people do have that really big concern about AI replacing displacing workers, right? Displacing, what you're doing. And I couldn't agree with Blake more, right? We at Bill don't think about AI as resource displacement. We think about it more about enablement, right? Generative AI is all about pattern matching and predicting probabilistically, right, about what comes next, what word comes next, what piece of content comes next. It doesn't understand the numbers or the content like humans do, and so it's not deterministic, and so it's, could be pretty flawed, right? And so we want to make sure that we use AI, but to make you guys more efficient, and not necessarily remove some of the great work that you guys are doing. We think that the human needs their hand on the wheel. And frankly, I think when you look at the numbers of how many fewer accountants are coming into this profession, how many new students, the drop and how many new students are coming into the accounting profession, how many new accountants come up, I think it's probably a pretty good thing, right? And so maybe, this is a good time to, show the first demo here of what I mean by enablement. As part of Finmark, which is a financial planning and analysis company. There's a reports exporter, right? Giving you the ability of generating a report that you can export to your client, send over to your client. Anything from an income statement to a balance sheet, cash flow, new spend. You can slice and dice the report however you want, add charts to it. This is going to be the foundation for reporting across all of Bill. We're going to make reporting much more user-friendly for you guys across Bill. And one of the features that we've included in here is an enablement for you. Usually if you think about sending out any kind of report to your customers, you probably want to add some context around what you're sending them, right? To me, that's always the hardest part, to get started with a blank screen and start writing what I'm trying to send over. I hit writer's block oftentimes. And so one example of enablement for us is using generative AI to give you a starting point around what you're sending. So based off of what you've attached to the report and the date range that you've selected, we use generative AI to automatically generate an executive summary. This could be, copied and pasted and dropped in the email. This could be attached to the report. But you can see here, it gives a pretty decent executive summary around what's going on based off of how we've prompted the generative AI system in the back end. Right now, we wouldn't recommend you send it out without reading it, without iterating on it, without playing around with it yourself. And making sure that the data is exactly how you want to portray it to your customer. But it gives you a fantastic starting point to enable you to send that executive report out a little bit faster.
Hey, Blake, do you want to start drilling him on questions on that before he gets to the second one? Because that's pretty cool, right?
Yeah. So if I understand it right, it's going to create that narrative executive summary. Is that what we're talking about?
Exactly.
All right. I mean, so I've tried this myself, dropping my own financial statements, into ChatGPT and asking it, hey, give me a bullet point executive summary, 5 bullet points. Like, can I ask, how are you designing the prompt? Like, what are you?
Oh, yeah.
Or is it going to be customizable? How does that work?
So, I mean, a really great question. The ChatGPT, what it outputs is a factor of a couple of different things, right? It's based off of what you ask it to do, the prompt that you send out to it, and the data that you have and how you structure the data and how easily it can understand that data. And so we have, the way that we've set it up, I don't know, here, I'll show my screen again. You have a couple of things that happen here. Underneath here, there's a feedback mechanism to tell us, was this helpful? We randomize the prompts. We've played around with a lot of different prompts, and we found the ones that perform best based off of our trials. Then based off of constant feedback, we're going to continue to iterate on the prompts and making sure that we refine the prompts to make sure that they're hitting home and they're relevant. So there's a constant feedback mechanism where you're iterating around what's going on. We've also structured, we've had to train the generative AI around around our data model and around the data that we have without giving it access to the data. We take data security really, really, it's really an important thing for us, right? And so we segregate the generative AI's ability to digest and understand things without having access to the raw data. We try to anonymize and only send it the data that it needs. And so we are constantly playing with the prompts and how we train it around what data we have so that it can do its best, it can respond as effectively as it can.
Yeah, and that's one of the big things why we hesitated. We told people to pump the brakes when initially ChatGPT came out, and we were like, do not put financial information of your clients in ChatGPT because it exposes to the public, right? It puts it out like in the public domain. So what Bill's done with this is done that security for us, done the anonymization to our clients' data are not in the public domain. So, but it allows us to get these insights, this first draft, this this first pass at this. And like he said, we would never recommend that anybody send this off once it was generated. But just like your emails, Tyler, that you've been doing, it's a great first draft to go back through and give you some thoughts around doing that. So that's a really cool example. Appreciate that, man.
Yeah. So I'll show you guys another example of what I mean by enablement. So the next demo that I'm going to jump into here is what we're calling our Copilot. Copilot is a chat-based assistant that's going to be rolled out and follow you around all of the different apps that you have across the Bill ecosystem. And it's here right now to help you better understand our products and your business. So it can start as a starting point. You could be in a part of the application. Let's take the Finmark application again, the FP&A application, and let's say you don't understand a particular definition. Instead of having to go to the help center, instead of having to kind of leave your flow of where you are, you can pull up the chat assistant and just ask it, what do you mean by net profit? What do you mean by this metric that you're showing me? Right, and that can be applicable across any part of the applications that we have. So it starts with just helping you understand our app. From there, it can also help you understand your data and understand how you maybe compare to the industry, right? So eventually, we want to be able to power this Copilot with benchmark information to help you understand your data as it relates to others. But really right now, if you look at the bottom question, how has my net profit trended over the past 6 months? That's data that you can go to a report and uncover. But instead of having to click around, it gives you the final point of what you're trying to look at without having to run a report, just find the line that says net profit and look at it. So it's a shortcut. What I look at generative AI is a shortcut to the answer that you're looking for faster. How can we enable you with the insights that you want across the product faster? Now, you can ask it any kind of question, right? But again, generative AI has only come so far today. And this is where we think that, again, you need a human's hand on the wheel. I asked it, why has my net loss been so high? Well, it didn't give me anything that's really revolutionary. Okay, it gave me the definition of how you come up with net profit, right? Like my expenses are higher than my revenue. Thanks, Sherlock. It doesn't really give you that great of an analysis. But if you refine your question, right, it can help you get to that answer faster. Right? Can you break down my expenses? Now it's just data, right? It's not trying to interpret anything. It's just giving you data. And now you can do the interpretation because it can give you an output really quickly around your data. Now it broke apart my expenses, and now you can double click into them, right? You can double click into an account by account or vendor by vendor, whatever you're looking for. It can help you get to those insights much, much faster. Versus having to go click around, find a report, and do those analyses yourself. And again, we've extrapolated the AI, the chat component of the AI from the data. And what that means is that you can have confidence that the data that we're presenting, when we say these are your COGS, that's 100% accurate. That's not probabilistic. That's coming from another system, right? So we're not relying on it to be deterministic on the data. And that's a really important part to this because, again, with generative AI, you never know when they call it, hallucinating. I call it just making stuff up. Like, it's not perfect and it doesn't tell you it's like your most annoying friend that is right 60% of the time, but thinks he's right 100% of the time. I think my wife thinks that I'm that person, right? That's how I think about ChatGPT and these generative AIs. And so we want to be 100% deterministic with the data that we send you. And so when it spits out a number, that number is right. And so for us, literally coming up here in the next couple of months, this is rolling out to customers. This Copilot will help you analyze information faster. That's the first step. The next step for us is helping you take actions faster. How do we enable you to get your work done in our application faster, right? Something like, hey, what are the outstanding vendors or bills that need to be paid? It'll spit out a list of them. And you can say, well, go ahead and pay the first, third, and seventh one. And it'll just do it, right? It'll go ahead and approve it if you have the right approvals, right? And so again, it's all about, instead of a linear progression of finding link by link, going down a link tree that we've architected to get things done, you tell us what the final endpoint that you want to have done, and it's going to skip all of those clicks in between. So that's going to make your job a lot faster. The last piece of generative AI that we're hoping to really get to in FY25 is learning what your behaviors are and then trying to create some automation layers around that to say, this is the thing that you've told me to do over and over and over again. Do you want to set this action on autopilot? That way you can focus your time on the exceptions, right? To literally what Blake was talking about earlier, you can spend your time on the exceptions, not the mundane tasks that you're going to have to do, that are just, listening to music time, I guess, as it would, or watching TV and clicking, one invoice at a time.
It's really cool. Hey, can you give us an idea about, we've seen you talked about in kind of 3 chunks, like when we're going to see these things live in products? I know some of this stuff is real early. Really appreciate you sharing with us. So can you talk about what's live now, or what do you think is coming in Q1, and then kind of second half of next year, like just timeline-wise?
Yeah. So the executive summary report and the Copilot functionality that gives you the insights is live now in the Finmark application. We are working towards bringing the Finmark application as another product in the unified platform, in the Bill unified platform, as we merge all of our products into one. And when we do that, that Copilot experience will then be applied and opened up across all of the different applications. It'll be something that follows you around regardless of what application you're in, whether that's spend and expense, whether that's bill AP or bill AR. It'll have context awareness, right? And so if you're asking about a vendor in AP, it'll look up vendors in AP. If you're looking at it for spend and expense, it'll answer it for spend and expense.
So that'll be across bill, the old Debbie, which is spend and expense, the old invoice to go, which is now the invoices, and Finmark. So those 4 platforms will have that kind of in the Q1. Exactly. Is that like Q1 or like when are we?
The calendar. Yeah, Q1 of FY24. From a calendar perspective, we have an offset year, right? So it's our Q3. Everybody else's Q1. That will be out in product. Awesome. And then the actions will be in Q2, being able to take those actions and do those action shortcuts. And then for our FY25, which is really Q3, Q4, and into the coming year, that's when the next layer of automations kicks in.
Yeah, and I guess one of the things you and I talked about in Salt Lake was that it's just incredible the pace in which this is going, which is the development pace, which I used to laugh at people's roadmaps when they're saying things like that. With this technology, I just tend to believe people now. I don't know why, because it's just moving so quickly, and the systems are learning so quickly. It's really exciting. Blake, did you have any final questions or any other questions? And if anybody in the audience has any questions, we have some microphones over here if anybody has any questions.
It's not so much a question as a comment. Automating the review of bills is something that gets me personally excited, because I remember when I was the sole bill approver in my accounting practice, and I had to go through every week and approve what got to be hundreds of bills. And for me, it was very challenging to stay focused the whole time and really look at the bills and look at the data and make sure it matched. And I would get lazy, to be honest, and I wasn't always doing the best job. And I feel like that is something that an AI could do a lot better than I could, and which I would have, happily handed off. Is that something that's coming in Q1, or is that further down the roadmap?
That's further down the roadmap. That's more like Q3, Q4. What will be coming is automated approvals based off of binary rules that you can set. Right? Things that you say, hey, up to this amount for this vendor, that's something simple that we can automate. But the logic chain that most humans go through to say, hey, did this bill match? Is there an increase? Without setting just a simple rule like that, we've played around with it, but there's a lot more, again, that we have to really refine with generative AI to make sure that we're getting it right. That's one that could go really off the rails very, very quickly. And so we're taking our time with it to make sure that we get it exactly right.
A lot more risk there when it comes to actually approving a payment.
Sending cash.
So I can see
Yeah, we try to be pretty careful with that here at Acuity, Blake. So like we're all in favor of pacing that one. So our vote is to pace that one out. So that's we've got some great accountants here that are very diligent, better than Blake, way better than Blake.
Much better than me.
So
I'm
they're
sure.
still in the accounting business, not in the media business now. So like so we love our jobs here. So that's great. I didn't see. Does anybody have any questions? Do you have any questions, or you have to? It's like a 2-second delay.
Yeah,
Patty's got a question. So.
well, I just want to springboard off of that and just ask about when the approvers are outside of Acuity. When how's the collaboration going to be working? Is it? I'm thinking about. What I'm really thinking about is training clients to be able to use the new system. And how that's going to be happening, since it's a collaborative process. The bill paying is a collaborative process.
The way this is a really great philosophical question for us. The way that we're approaching this is that this is alongside everything you know and do and love about Bill today. We're not going to rip out anything that you have today. This is a pattern, a new interface that follows you around and sits alongside your existing experiences. And what that means is, as people get used to generative AI, they're going to have a much different journey across every application that they use, right? Some people have never used ChatGPT. Some people have played around with it. Some people have enabled it already on Google Bard and Bing, right? And so they're experiencing that. We think that we're going to create in-product experiences to learn how to do it, but we're not going to really force people down this path. We want it to be there for them to kind of ease their way into it and discover it. And that gives us the opportunity to kind of learn and iterate frankly, at smaller volumes as we continue to make it better. And so, if you're looking for how do you accelerate your client's adoption for it, then it'll be guiding them towards our product release videos. It'll be guiding them towards our help center, and maybe we can create the right training materials for you guys as well to pass along to your customers to simplify their experiences. But we're not looking. We want people to kind of wander down this path of AI, and we don't want to force people. We're not pushing anybody down this journey right now.
That's awesome. Maybe have time for one last question, whether that's in the room or Blake. Any last question? And we might even have you a parting word before we get Ted up here. Anything else? All right. That was really awesome. We really appreciate you taking time and joining us for Money 2020, man. That was really awesome. We really appreciate it.
Hey, my pleasure. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Awesome. Thank you. Awesome. Well, we're getting Ted up here. We'll get Blake back on screen. We'll get Ted up here. We'll get the Intuit queued up on the video and all that kind of stuff. So we have another special guest. Last time I saw Ted, he was keynoting Intuit's QuickBooks conference. So I'm glad that he's gracing our stage as well. So thank you for joining us. We're privileged to have you here. We're really excited to hear about what you guys have in store.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This microphone's amazing. Like the triangle on top. I feel like I'm on Resort Sports Network. It's like, how's the ski report today? Well, it's awesome. And you look at the slopes, you're like, there's no snow on those slopes. This is great. So thanks for having me. I got to say, it is so cool to be in the room with all of y'all and just get to hear the culture in conversations with yourself, with Kenji and others. Acuity has such an amazing reputation as a firm that is kicking ass and doing it with a smile. Am I allowed to curse?
You can. If you're with me on stage.
Doing great and doing it with a smile.
I'm trying to be better. Last time I visited my mom, she was like,
keeping it real,
Can you please not curse? She said two things. Can you please not curse? And will you stop making fun of Kenji? So on the video where I made fun of your thing, my mom's the one that's coming to Kenji's defense. And then but last time.
Yeah.
So what did you think about, had you seen the Bill stuff yet?
No, it was great to see.
So what was your first blush
It's amazing to see commonalities in the approach, right? In terms of thinking about I think right now I almost brought up 2 props, and then I was like, you guys don't know me yet. That's probably a bad idea because it would make me look too silly. But I think right now a lot of the excitement around Gen AI, it's in the category of a toy, right? It's like, come to a party and write a poem that Gen AI created that you recite that's a limerick, and you're like, that doesn't help my workflow. And so what I love about it is the really the specificity of like, here is a workflow. How can Gen AI be helpful to you? And we've got a lot of similarities in the approach. And so I can jump right into some of the framework. I'm reading the energy in the room. I know we're after lunch and energy can get a little bit low. How's everybody doing? Kind of okay? Okay. So the way that we've been
that was kind of like a kind of
I know, okay. That was like kind of okay.
Okay, can we be like Acuity, okay? How are you guys doing in the room?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's more Acuity okay than kind of okay.
I like
Thank
that.
you, I appreciate that.
I like that, yes. I will not ask you for excitement.
Okay.
Just keep it real. If you need to stand up, please stand up. I love to stand. So the way that we've approached Gen AI at Intuit, and I'm using that word very deliberately, Gen AI versus AI. We've been talking about building AI platforms for years. 5 years ago, when our current CEO became CEO, Sasan, he talked about how we were going to become an expert-driven AI platform, which is a lot of words together. But the reality is that is the journey that we've been on. Gen AI takes that several leaps forward. And so when we think about Gen AI, we think about it, it's really like there's a framework we use. It does 4 things. It can show you things that you or your client is unaware of, right? That presentation layer, Blake, that you were talking about, how it can summarize really fast. It can also then take a step beyond that and say, here is how we can now do some things for you, provide some of that automation like you heard Rami talking about in the Bill experience. The third thing that it can do is it can start to provide a more personalized set of actions, and so we would call that guide me. Right? Tell me what to do. That's the area when we've been engaging with folks like yourselves. That's where we hear a lot of hesitation, where y'all are like, well, I don't know that I want you telling my client to do something crazy, right? And so that's where the idea of how do we present that information to you in a way where you can intervene, or if we are making recommendations, you can say, I want to know what you're telling my client so that we're up to speed and we've got the same contextual information.
Yeah, because our clients got plenty of crazy on their own.
Plenty of crazy, right?
Yeah, they bring plenty of crazy every day for us.
Yes,
so.
Yes. You guys never bring them any crazy.
No, we never wreak havoc.
And then the fourth area is help me. And so this is actually where I think AI can be maybe most exciting for you is I know that a lot of you serve as like the front line of defense for us, right? Somebody has a problem in QuickBooks, they don't call us, they call you. Show of hands, how many people have had issues with your clients calling? Yeah, exactly. 70% of the room, for those that are on Zoom, raise their hands. I don't know about you on Zoom. And so that's the fourth area. So, and I'm going to date myself. Who here has seen Batman Forever? Yeah, you remember the U2 song? Hold me, love me, kill me, kiss me, whatever that sequence. So like our 4 guide work, like every time I say that, I think that U2 song, and I'm like, we need to put that to music, right? Dun, 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 dun. So, let's cue the demo. I'll stop with the dad jokes, and I'll talk you through some of the experiences that we are currently testing right now. So you can see this is kind of small. We're going to go fast. So Intuit Assist, it's over on the right-hand side. We're going to zoom in. It says, hey, show me last month's P&L. Presents that pretty quickly and then has some insights like, hey, show me how that compares to last month. And it's like, okay, great, stuff's up. Then you can drill into things like, what drove that? Okay, it's my inventory. So that would be all in the category of show me. Then we're going to also say, hey, as we all know, not everybody goes to the dashboard page. And so we also have an experience where, I think it's still running. Let's see. Is it still going? Okay, great. When you log in, we can then be presenting your clients with information about what's happened since they last logged in, forecasting a cash flow dip. Hey, we see something. Here's some drivers for that. Here's some actions you could think about taking. Spending anomalies. And then we all know confidence is a big thing, so celebrations are important. When we talk about Guide Me, we also have the ability to say, hey, what could I do to solve for that cash flow dip? And we've got some recommendations that we're surfacing there. So let's pause it there, if you don't mind. Thanks, buddy. So that would all be in the category of show me, okay? The next area that we're gonna go into is imagine you've got a new client, they've been working only in Excel. Right? They haven't been using a financial management solution. Show of hands, we've all seen this too, right? And some of those folks, they're just getting started. They've created a website. They're excited, right? You're not real until you have a website. That was the thing when I started my own small business. Everybody was like, nobody wanted a business card, which I'd gone and gotten. Everybody was like, what's your website? And I was like, why do I need a virtual manifestation of my company to be real when I'm right in front of you? But that's the way that we work. So let's get the next thing going. So we're going to show new business to QuickBooks. They can put in their website, and our AI can go scrape all of that website data and then do things like start to populate with that business profile and start personalizing recommendations based on industry, age, location. Pause here. Now we're going to jump into that use case of, okay, they've got their website and then they've been running their business on Excel. So now you're going to see an experience where the AI can take the Excel file, upload it all into QuickBooks, and then surface insights based on everything that it's pulled in. So you can keep rolling the video. So here it is. It's going to suck in this Excel file from the past year, gather all that information, pull it in, import it, and then show you a bunch of insights that it has across tax deductions, cash flow, your customers, et cetera. Again, in the category of surfacing insights that you don't know. Let's pause here. So those are two really cool use cases. If you think about that time and expense, or the time savings that Blake was talking about, that we were talking about earlier as well, how we're trying to think about how can we use AI in the ways that it is good at to remove some of the drudgery of what you all have to do every day. Now we're going to get more into that kind of ChatGPT-like world where we can talk about, hey, we can be proactively creating invoice reminders for you or your client to be sending out on their behalf. So if you roll again, buddy, now we can show what that looks like where you've got the Intuit Assistant. Boom, here's an invoice reminder, right? We talked about that cash flow dip. And now we're going to zoom in and you can see, here's an invoice reminder, and we've got opportunities to shorten it, make it more assertive because some people need that stick. Others, it's like, they're really loyal, let's make it friendly. Who wants to overuse emojis? We've got you. And so that's pretty cool, right here. So then last thing, let's pause. The last thing is in the category now of help me. Right? So this is where we all know the reason why you all have amazing job security is you are the trusted advisor for your client. And the last experience is all about surfacing, hey, I love the pixels, I love the automation, let me just go talk to an expert. And so that's the last thing. So we can stop here, buddy, we're good. We can go back to Blake. No more screens because everybody gets tired of screens. So those are 4 very specific use cases that I was talking about of the show me, guide me, do it for me, and then help me, which we're going to set to music, and it'll be exciting.
And then we're going to get you two to come out.
You two, that's right. You heard it here first. We're in Vegas. They're in the sphere. Let's pull them over.
Is you two going to come?
Sadly, they're not in town that week. They heard we were coming and they fled.
Yeah. There's a bunch of F1 races.
Yeah, I was about to say, maybe they'll be back for F1.
That's great. Blake, what do you think? Straight out of the gate, come hot. Here we go. We got Ted on the hot seat.
I'm already sweating.
Hey, Ted. Great to see you.
Good to see you too. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling all right. It's the second round is not nearly as bad.
Not as bad. Good to hear.
I'm really excited about the cash flow forecasting because I feel like apps have been trying to do this forever and nobody's ever gotten it right yet. So what makes you think that adding in the Gen AI magic is going to really make it useful this time? Because I've just never found it to be all that accurate.
Yep, I share your suspicion. Cash flow, I think everybody here, right, the joke about a projection, the only thing we know about the projection is that it's wrong. We don't know if it's high or low. We just know it's wrong. To me, the thesis is, if you think about what QuickBooks has done, and I've been into it for about 6 years, and QuickBooks has gone from being, this phone keeps sliding off my leg, it's gone from being a general ledger product to, we've always had payroll, but now we're expanding into the world of payments, right? We've got MailChimp. And so if you think about the data set that we continue to amass, the surface area of the client space, we're getting more and more signals by which we can predict cash flow. We also are embedding, we've got a new set of functionality coming out. We talk about bill pay and building that network where payor and payee are both in the QuickBooks universe. And so when we can see across both sides of that transaction, now we know, well, that person is very likely to pay because we know what's in their bank account because it's connected to QuickBooks and it's not returning an error. Now we can say, yep, that's going to be one that goes through. And so we have that data advantage, Blake, to really be seeing across more parts of the business and really be providing real actionable insights from it. But I think it's exactly the right question, and you continue to push on it and test it with us.
So one of my questions is, I see a lot of what Intuit's come out with so far, and it's a very our client user focused. So can you share with us kind of your philosophy of how you're going to be approaching the accountant community and what we can expect and kind of timelines for what we should expect to start? How should we mentally prepare ourselves?
No, it's good. It's a good question. So we are in a very private beta with this right now, because I think there is a lot of care that we have where we are, and it goes back to that security question that was asked earlier, which is we expose 0% of that financial client data to any outside LLM, which means we are building our own private LLMs. When we do partner with a provider like an OpenAI, right, which does ChatGPT, that gets all the headlines a lot of the time, we're actually siphoning off and coordinating what do they get, making sure that is not any client-specific data, but that is very generalized and not violating any of our data stewardship or security principles and profiles. So that's the first thing. The second part of the answer as we're testing is, if you think about our experience, when we brought a lot of the AI to our partner council, right, which Lisa is now serving on, thank you, Lisa, the feedback was, oh my gosh, this is amazing and very scary, right? It's both and. And so what we're looking at developing are tools such as a lot of the logic, like you were talking about how it's really important to tune a query. And the more specific you are in your query, the better the result that you get, right? And the quick aside I will talk to you all about is from that toy to tool world. My oldest child was applying to college last year over Christmas. And so he took one of his essays that he'd written and he uploaded it to ChatGPT. And he said, can you shorten this for me? And because he'd written it, it was 500 words. Well, guess what? Another school had the same question and they wanted it in 300 words. And so it did that for him. And he was like, oh, this is amazing. And then he started reading it and he's like, this is garbage, right? And so, but because it was really specific, there were aspects that were really helpful. And so it gave him a new mental model of how to approach shortening it down, but he still had to do a bunch of the fine tuning. And so similarly, with that analogy, if we think about the query logic, you all are in the business of seeing the need for a query across all of your clients. You've got a portfolio. A small business is going to be living in the world of toy for a long time. And so what we're looking at is how can we provide y'all with the insight of here are the common queries that your clients are coming up with, give you the ability to be tuning those queries. And so that's what we're in the midst of working on now. And then how do we present that to you in a way where you can be in partnership with the client?
So when do you think our clients will start seeing some of this stuff in product?
Yeah, so we have a policy of we can't talk about anything until it's 6 months, right? At least we know it's going to launch in the next 6 months. So the fact that we're talking about Intuit Assist, you can expect to be seeing that in the next 6 months. If you want my opinion, it's going to be closer to 6 months than 6 days. But you didn't hear that from anybody other than me.
Okay, yeah. That's awesome. Blake, you got one?
What about any specific accountant tools that use generative AI? We've seen a lot for the end user. What about us accountants?
Yeah, we're working on, we got a bunch of hypotheses that we're going to be putting into test. So there is a roadmap developing for that, is what I would say, but I can't talk about what they are because that's all, as you would imagine. Those are NDA conversations.
That's a very secret conversation, not for a public YouTube broadcast. Awesome.
Hello, Mom.
Hi, everybody. One of the things I thought from a level set perspective that would be helpful to people on the pace on adoption, could you just recap, you might know this number off the top of your head, but just generally, how many of your customers are on QuickBooks Desktop and how many are on QuickBooks Online? Like a percentage now.
Yeah. So I would say it's 80% online at this point.
So 80% online, still 20% are on desktop. So there's different people going to be at different paces. We thought cloud was going to be cloud is there and cloud is working, but we've got to bring some people along with that. So there's different paces our clients are going to move at this pace. And AI, my point to that is AI is going to be no different.
Yeah.
So there's people that are going to be at different stages of this all along. So just keep that in your mind that still 20% of U.S. businesses are on QuickBooks Desktop. from an adoption perspective. So.
Yeah, that's a really good reminder. And I think the other thing is, and you all know this, right? The sacred bond that you have with each of your clients is trust because of your competency, because of what you deliver. And I know personally, having been a self-employed and small business owner myself, there is so much unspoken shame and guilt around the state of the finances or the lack of the state of knowing the finances, right? Show of hands, how many's with me right now? Everybody, right? And so I think about the power of how can we be using AI to be identifying where are those moments in a small business's journey inside QuickBooks that we can see, and then make that connection and say, right here, right now, great time to be reaching out to client, right, Julie. She needs help, she's stuck. And so that to me is like identifying those snags or those points where people start to get scared and want to abandon, right? We talk about this all the time. If you look at the number one place where we see drop off in the experience of QuickBooks, it's day one. People log in, they see QuickBooks, and they flee. Seriously, right? But you think about that, and it's funny because it's like, yeah, because it's overwhelming. But to me, the tragedy is that was a moment where they could have been taking control of their finances, and they got scared. And it's like, if we could understand why, and we could connect them to folks like yourselves, we could really change that. And again, if you go back to our mission of powering prosperity, the more that we are making that connection, we know, right? Everybody is more successful when they're connected with their accountant. And so that's where we're going to be focusing on making that connection.
That's cool. Do you guys have any questions? Patty, I know Patty's got to have a question, right?
I do, but it's a really detailed, bizarre question.
We love your detailed, bizarre questions.
So I saw the import of the Excel spreadsheet that gave you the insights, and I'm like, dear God, those are going to be instantly wrong because garbage in, garbage out. And so then I was thinking, how are you actually doing that? Are you like posting a journal entry within QuickBooks to get those? Like, I just kind of want to know how that works.
It's a great question. I will be happy to get the team to follow up with you on that one specifically, because I'm not going to make it up on the spot. and I had the same question. So I agree. Honesty, radical candor.
Radical
Good for you.
candor. I was
What else do you want to ask that I don't
all
know?
the ops managers at the same time were like, that would be great for cleanup until it wasn't.
Well, and so that what I can share is on the cleanup journey, right? So we've been working on that really hard on the QuickBooks Live side. And so the amazing part about the journey that we're getting there is we've actually gotten to a place on helping clients with cleanup where we can get that done in 7 days. Like an entire year in 7 days. That's clean, that's not right, not the first pass, but the really clean pass.
For e-commerce people too?
That's a different use case. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know.
100% different. But yes, so that's where, again, like to me, if you take a segmented approach, right, that's where the power of this comes.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, cool. Do you have any parting words for us before we get Blake on the hot seat up here?
My parting word is thank you all for what you're doing. It is really powerful. Like the reason that Jessica and Debbie and Bev and I are all here is we just wanted to get to experience what you're up to and why. And so I've been taking pictures, I've been taking notes. There's so much that you all are doing that is amazing. And so thank you for the work that you're doing on behalf of our customers.
Oh, DMAC, this is our DMAC, this is our world traveler. He happened to catch him 2 days before he goes to Argentina. So you got a good question for us here?
I don't know if it's good. I guess we'll find out.
Okay.
No, yeah, all good questions. Go ahead.
Since the future of the world is online, cloud-based, when are you going to deprecate desktop?
Oh, that's not even an AI question.
Yeah, that's not an AI question. It's a good question. So what I would say is there are a variety of points of view with tons of passion on both sides of the answer to that question. And again, I'm going to speak on my behalf, right? I represent Intuit, but this is a TEDism that I've been working to get folks internally to agree with me on. But I think we should have a very clear manifesto that we will not ask anyone to move until we have the right online experience for their use case. We're not there, right? To your point on inventory, right? We've just been working to integrate our commerce product. We've got amazing work that's happening there. You're going to hear a lot about that in the months ahead, but we're not there. And so those are really important use cases. And so we continue to make that journey. You're going to see us progressing that conversation, but we're not in a place where we're saying, hey, here's where we're stopping at this point, because we still need to do the right things to be bringing those folks along. And that's also where the partnership with all of you is so important, because we've got a number of outspoken members of the accounting profession who say, I will retire before I'll leave desktop. And some people are saying, I'll be happy to take that business from you so you can retire. We celebrate that. And for those that want to stay on desktop because that's what they know and that's what they use, I get it. They built their business on desktop. We built the product together with them. And so there's a bunch of reason for that passion. And so I think this is a long answer. Sorry. It's a great question. To me, the answer is we will be ready to stop the desktop experience when we've got the right experiences for the folks online. And I think the reality is, together with you, we're going to have to convince not just your clients, but other members of the community that we're at that point. Because I think we're going to get there sooner than folks maybe appreciate, but we're going to have to go do it together.
Awesome. Well, if anything deserves a standing ovation, and we could use a break, like standing ovation, we do like a standing ovation.
Thanks, everybody.
For Ted, and get Blake up at the same time. Awesome. Thank you very much. That's awesome. Everybody stretch your legs. We'll get Blake up here. We got two Blakes, so we got Blake squared. This is not the AI version of Blake online. This is the other Blake online.
I also do not have COVID. Just going to say, I'm not the Blake that has COVID.
This was not the Blake that has COVID right here at all. Awesome. That is the other Blake that has COVID. Well, thank you. And I have to say that the number one requested shirt for AcuityCon every year is the I Love Checklist shirt, which will be here in abundance tomorrow. I have been assured. So thank you for being here. So awesome.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
We're going to switch gears a little, talk about Process Street. We talked about our clients getting to see AI. Now this is going to be about AI that we can use to run our business, AI we can use to enable some automation and stuff like that. So thanks for joining us on this journey.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. Show of hands really quick. Who here uses Process Street? Wow. Okay. That's awesome. Okay. For everyone else that's on Zoom, that was like basically everybody. Welcome. I'm glad that I brought a lot of shirts. Good. Okay. And also I want to mention this is not the only shirt I own. I know it's the same shirt that I'm wearing in the picture on the slide. I saw that I was sitting there. I was like, that looks gross. Okay. Anyways. So today I want to talk about some of the ways that we've been leveraging AI. Sorry, you know what's weird? I'm like, should I stare at the camera or should I look at people? I don't know.
You can do whatever you want.
I'll do both.
We're just going to.
I was like, look up at the ceiling. No, okay. We're leveraging AI in a lot of really interesting ways at Process Street. So there's one very specific way that I'm actually going to be showing you in a video in a moment here. But before I do that, I want to talk about some of the other ways. First off, process generation and import. So if you ever if you have a process that you right now, like in this moment, you have as a Word document, a PDF, whatever else, that you're like, man, I hate doing this thing. I wish I could just make it easier. And you want to put it in Process Street, but you're like, it takes so much work to do. It'll literally now take you like 30 seconds because you can actually import that process directly into Process Street. It'll build the full thing for you. It will put assignments, due dates, all those sorts of things into it. So if you have any sort of repetitive tasks that you're doing, this is a really good opportunity, a way to build that directly in. That's using AI to make that happen. If you don't have it documented, you can also just tell Process Street exactly what it is that process is going to do, what the purpose of it is going to be. And it will actually generate, again, all the tasks and everything else and all the content, email widgets, all those sorts of things. It can generate all of that for you automatically, and again, happening in about a minute or so. So really, really great way to just ramp up and get all of your processes into the system and get things automated and happening a lot faster and a lot more efficiently for you. Outside of those two, or rather outside of those two, like import and the generation bits, we also obviously are putting AI directly into your processes in terms of AI tasks. That's what I'm going to be showing in the video. But outside of that, you're also able to integrate AI with Process Street using our existing integrations with things like Zapier, Integromat, and lots of other tools. And basically, that's going to allow you to do really, really interesting, complicated things. For example, I haven't assigned an account to a CSM, customer success manager, in like 6 months now, which is like a part of my job. And it's pretty sweet because I can just give it some instructions. It just does it, notifies me who's been doing it, rather who's getting that account, things of that nature. And that's all happening through our processes inside of Process Street. And so again, everyone's collaborating, moving back and forth at the most critical time when somebody's moving from being a sales lead to actually being a customer. So that handoff is now even more seamless, and it's happening even faster. They're not waiting on me to have to decide who it goes to. It just happens, right? So that's an example of a more interesting kind of intricate way you could do it. But the thing that I'm going to be showing you today is actually our AI tasks. And those really, really open you up to lots of different ways that you can use AI in your own personal workflows. Speaking of your own personal workflows, if you don't mind bringing that up now, what we actually did is I actually had them go ahead and make a copy of your month-end close process. And what we did is we actually put some of those AI tasks into it. So again, it's a copy, so no one has to frantically worry that your process is now
this is now in production, and all of your clients have received notifications.
Yeah, don't worry. We archived everything. Everything is deleted forever, and we emailed them all. Yeah, okay. So you can go ahead and press play. So as you see here, this is that month-end
in this
close.
video, I'm simply going to...
Oh, you may want to mute that. That's not even me talking. That's the new guy who I had do this. Not joking. It's a good
in this video, I'm simply going...
Matt. His name's Matt.
Is it Matt Kelly?
Oh my God, it is.
Yeah.
How do you know?
Because he watched one of my Loom videos, and I was like,
In
"Who
this video-
is in our?"
He did a good
Process
job,
Street?"
yeah.
And I locked everything down and freaked out.
To be clear, he wasn't in your. I did say, I request. This was all with permission.
He got permission. I just forgot to tell Patty or Sherry.
Yeah. That must have been a fun surprise for you.
Bad Matthew. Bad Matthew.
All right. So, anyways, you can go ahead and press play now. It's okay.
Hopefully,
as long as it's muted. There we go.
Oh, there we go.
Cool. So as you can see here, we have these AI tasks. There's lots of ways you can use it. As you click on that drop down, you'll see one of those ways is summarizing. So you can pull in information, so data from all throughout your process, put it all together. So say you've got tons and tons of different fields, whether it's notes, information about your clients, their, whatever sort of reporting that you're doing, you can pull all of that in. And then, of course, you can actually build that prompt and customize it in here as well. And we actually suggest sort of how that prompt should look. But you can also tweak it if you are discovering that maybe it's just giving you a little bit of a wrong answer. You want to make it better. It's always something you can improve. And what that will do is that will output to a different field that you can then use in things, for example, say an email that you're going to send to the client or maybe just to anyone else. You can also have that sent to somebody for approval, right? So somebody can kind of just quickly read through what's actually happening without having to look through all of the notes and all the data, blah, 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 all of those sorts of things. So again, that's just one way. And the really cool thing about these AI tasks is that it's really, really open-ended. So you can use it for pretty much anything that you want. So these are just recommended ideas for prompts. Another one of those is sentiment analysis. So sentiment analysis is basically just determining the sentiment or how, basically the feeling of text, or of course you could do it on audio, those other sorts of things. But in this case, you're doing it on the text that you're submitting into this prompt. And so in that case, that's something that we've used a lot, for example, on our support sites. We're able to actually see as people are managing support tickets, this is internal to Process Street, we can actually identify and even flag when somebody is particularly pissed. Yeah, literally, that is what we called it. But yeah. That's what the automation says. We have an extra pissed off customer. And it flags us, notifies everybody, those sorts of things, and it comes through this sentiment analysis that, again, you can have directly inside of your process. Again, just to kind of read through really quickly, give you a summary, tell you what was the overall sentiment of that call. Was it a positive call? Was it a particularly negative call? what's going on. Again, that can kind of give that to you as an output again in those fields. So those are just two examples, but some things that you may have seen as well in those drop downs are things like text parsing. So for example, you've got a full name that's coming in and you want to split that up so you can just say, hey, Joe, rather than hey Joe, whatever, with their whatever their name is, their last name is, that is. You're able just to kind of push that directly in, as you need it. You can text, you can parse that sort of stuff up. You can do math. Obviously, that's something that you guys will all be pretty interested in. I want to admit that the math component is not AI powered, even though it is sort of in the AI task, and that is because one thing that hasn't been discussed yet is AI is pretty bad at math. These LLMs are, again, they're predictive. Even though it is using statistics to give you the response, it's not doing any sort of real calculation with the numbers in it. So it can do some light level math, those sorts of things, but we are actually using just classical computing rather inside of that compute bit. But honestly, that's a good thing, because when they first put it out there with AI, it did an awful job. And so, but anyways, yeah, that's a really good way to basically take, again, different inputs from, as you're talking to your clients, any sort of formulas, any sort of anything like that you're manually doing right now, you can just have it done for you as a part of the process. And again, you can insert that automatically into your emails, into your approvals, into anywhere else, into your documents, through integrations if you need, and again, all of these sorts of things. So those are some of the big ways that we've been integrating AI into Process Street.
That's awesome. That's cool. Blake, I know you use Process, the other Blake, online Blake. This is going to be confusing. I'm going to have to use two words. Mr. Oliver,
Oh, wow.
I know you use Process Street in your business as well. What are you excited about? What did you see there in the demo that makes you excited and jumps out at you?
This is COVID, Blake. Yes, I am super excited because we use Process Street for our core workflows, which include podcast episode production. So every episode goes through a Process Street workflow run, and then course creation, CPE course creation. So the CPE course questions, all the metadata that has to be assembled. And so for us, we have an advantage in that we aren't dealing with confidential client information running through these public LLMs. I don't really care if, a transcript for a podcast episode that's out there on the web goes through an LLM because it's already public. And so we're looking at really exciting ways to, generate brainstorming episode titles or those episode descriptions.
That's a good one.
Any of the other metadata that goes into a podcast episode, or perhaps even creating questions for CPE courses. I guess for me, I'm actually curious, maybe this is a question for Patty or Matthew even, where do you see the AI fitting into your month-end close, which I know is in Process Street? How can that, would it be client emails? I guess that would probably be the place I'd start thinking right away.
Yeah, I'd say probably client emails is the most likely one. Our month-end close isn't really a month-end close process. It's more basically just reporting back and saying how we submitted the financials and how happy the clients are with us and vice versa. So it's not like first you do this and then you do that and all of that. So it's really going to be around communication, I think.
Yeah, and that's another thing too, right? It's just, of course, generative AI, right? You can actually generate things like emails, right? So as we're mentioning here with summaries and other sorts of things, that can automatically not only generate the process that you're actually using itself, but you can actually then generate the content that you're using inside of a workflow run. So as you're actually going through it, you're pulling data from where you need, and again, it can kind of take those prompts and then create something like a very personalized email that's relevant, maybe bring something up about the location that your new client is in, or maybe something about, again, if you're inserting little personal details, you can really use that to, again, just make a very, very optimized process that allows you to do the things that humans are really good at, which is just interact and build real connections.
But when you think of things that take time, in our onboarding workflow, for example, so the sales team does an incredible job and spends hours with these prospects before they come to us in recorded calls. But we can see at least a path where we can get that into using some kind of bot AI, whatever you want to call it, get the language out of that. That's a daunting thing for an ops manager to rewatch an hour of Tyler talking. It's easier with John now, but an hour of Tyler talking about the same thing, like this is pretty rough, right? But you can imagine if we can get it down to where there's a summary of that, that summary feeds an onboarding workflow. That onboarding workflow can help you generate a specific request list for a client, at least a draft of that. So there's stages of data in that, but like in the future, we can start envisioning what some of these processes can start look like when you have large amounts of data, like an hour-long phone call that we can synthesize and get bits and pieces of. That's just data out there that becomes actionable. That gets kind of exciting. Right? That gets you a sense of sentiment. That gets you a sense of anything where you can get this sense where you can start getting at least indicators where this can start assisting us to take all this big data and get it into a more synthesized form is where this starts getting really powerful when you think of, because I think of Process Street as our back end, right? Like our back end system. So it's mostly our data when I think about when we talk to people, our Salesforce notes, how do we get that to people? How do we get that to pod leaders? How do we get that to team leaders in ways at the right times? So those are all things that are fun to think about. When we talk about AI awareness, though, these are like things we're becoming aware of, not things you're having to worry about in 2024, but these are things we're going to be dreaming about this year on how we kind of incorporate these and how these things come to 2025 for you guys, right? In some real way.
Awesome. Yeah, I was just going to say, actually, one example that we've built internally, we've got a lot of things we've been using it. So that's the fourth way. We've been using it internally a lot, for our operations and sort of how we do things. And that's helped us a lot to be able to advise our customers on sort of ways that they can use it. And so, as an example, one of the things you just mentioned there in terms of having those notes, I assume your notes going from Process Street to Salesforce?
From Salesforce to Process Street.
Oh, okay, awesome. So you can go that way. But also I would say something that we've seen that on our side is we run a process for while we're doing our calls. No big surprise there. But as we're doing our onboardings or our check-ins with our customers, our different reps are going through and they're filling out, they're asking the questions they need to ask. And of course, it's allowing them to standardize sort of just, what data we're collecting and, should we be asking these questions or these questions, those sorts of things. Really helpful, especially for newer people. And again, as people are filling all of that out, and they're submitting that in, again, what we're doing is we're standardizing those notes, we're sending those over to Salesforce. That's nothing new. We've been doing that for a while. But the AI part of this is two things. One, immediately we're able to summarize that data, which we're doing directly inside of the process itself. But secondarily, as again, we're even also what we're passing into Salesforce as well. But secondarily, we can actually basically create a digest with all of those notes for, say, for example, an entire week of customer calls. And what I'm able to do is basically take all of that data, which is an insane amount of notes, and something that I really don't want to have to read through word for word every single week. Instead, what we can do is we can actually take that, put it into a digest, take that digest then to push via API to OpenAI, which is ChatGPT, and have it basically summarize it, give us key points, give us indicators of risk, give sentiment, customers that are really happy, that would be really good for referrals, which you're speaking to, getting feedback, ones that are really not happy, what are the core requests for product, all of those sorts of things. Again, this is a huge amount of data and information that we're able to just really automatically, really quickly digest and then give it out to all the people that it matters and allow them to basically be enabled with that information. So these are examples of stuff that we've done internally that we've helped to really, again, advise clients on.
Patty's got a question.
Yeah, but if you take all that information and put it into ChatGPT, isn't there a concern about privacy?
Yes and no. So in terms of going through Process Street, so what we're doing there, again, we're doing a lot of cleansing stuff, but as well, something that wasn't mentioned here previously is that when it's going into the public domain is when you're using ChatGPT's, basically its user interface, right? Using as a person going on to the chat.openai/chat and putting things in that way is where it's actually getting put into the public domain. When you're operating through the paid API for OpenAI, you're not actually having your information get put into the public domain. It's something that they were really big and public about because of this concern itself. So we still do a level of cleansing as well on the Process Street side before sending it over anyways, but that is something that really makes that so that we're not particularly too concerned about it just because, again, it's, it's not going to a human isn't reading your stuff and then typing it into ChatGPT, because wow, that would take so long, and also that would be not great for privacy.
So one of the things we've done this year, and I want to get your take on how you think AI could help this initiative, is Stacy Cintron, Sammy, the tech stack team, the ops managers have been contributing to a company wiki, which we're hosting in Process Street. So we're using the pages functionality in Process Street. And when you guys should start seeing these and be referring to the pages when you go to Process Street. When you go to the library, you'll be able to see like the trainings that are out there, the technology trainings, the demos, and stuff like that for all the Acuity folks out there. But as we're creating those trainings and education, I think of this because Blake's list, training and education, is right there on the list. How should we be thinking about incorporating the AI as we generate these trainings and these wiki pages, things like that, if you have anything off the top of your head there?
Oh, absolutely. So yeah, one of the biggest things that I'd say that we've used it for, and therefore our clients have also used it for as well, is that sort of document generation, but especially not just the generation of it, but also just proofreading. So what we'll do is we'll often take existing documentation. So maybe, for example, it's how we've drafted a proposal, or how we've drafted sort of just a roadmap or a timeline of, just an implementation plan for a customer. And obviously, so I'm the head of customer success. Big surprise that my takes are all going to be on customer-related things. I'm very focused on customer, the side of business, but we've used it across the whole board. So I'm just kind of speaking from my side of things. But in terms of generating those sorts of things, we've been able to basically say, hey, here's a previous version of this document, or can you recommend a version of this document? And I'd like you to modify it with these sort of things in mind. So modify it for this particular customer, modify it for this particular use case, whatever it might be. Maybe it's how you do an onboarding, right? But maybe there's specific things you need to consider that are for a particular location, right? That's something that GPT is going to be really, really good at, is basically taking what you have and then synthesizing it, and basically being able to add together other elements, things like, again, just like cultural knowledge, or other sort of things that are specific to that client, or basically just replacing things, whatever you need to do. That's one way that, as you're going through and generating those those documents using our pages, I'd highly recommend basically just copy and paste that, throw that right into. And by the way, this may be something that goes into the product itself on the pages element of things. I'm not saying that it is or isn't, but very well could. Take that, put it into ChatGPT, and basically ask it those questions. Basically, how can I make this more concise? Is this readable? How would I break this out into bullet points? Anything like that you would otherwise basically ask potentially an assistant to go do, is something that you can now ask GPT to do for you instantly, and give it a lot of back and forth knowledge, and not feel so bad that it has to do all that manual work, because it's a robot. Who cares?
That's right. Blake, what else we got? We're about to hit our time. So any other, Blake Oliver, COVID Blake.
I figured, because you weren't staring at me.
Yeah. So, you have any other questions?
I don't,
or any?
No more questions from me. I think this is all fantastic. I'm a big fan. So great to meet you.
Fan of you too.
Any other Process Street last words, or anything you want us to take home?
Things to look forward to. I can tell you that we didn't speak about a little. It's just so a couple things. One, if you haven't already, I recommend using forms for collecting your data. So we now have the ability to create forms. So Google, basically akin to Google Forms, but just directly inside of Process Street. So it allows you to kick off automations, do all different sorts of things. That's huge. Obviously, you already mentioned pages. But outside of those, we're also actually right now working on being HIPAA compliant, which obviously you guys aren't healthcare, but that security, that added level of security, will also benefit you all as well. So that's something else there that is currently in development, something to look forward to. And again, thank you so much for having me here. This has been awesome so far. And again, really happy to see you all. Please feel free to come up to me. Love to talk to you. And please come up to me tomorrow to get some shirts, thermoses, mugs, all those sorts of things.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Cool. Appreciate it. Okay, Mr. Oliver, we got about 5 minutes to wrap this up. I just want to take a break before our great keynote. Ms. McCracken is going to kick off. So any parting thoughts, any big takeaways for AcuityCon 2023?
I think one of the things that sticks out to me based on our conversations, Matthew, is the approach that Acuity is taking to AI. And I don't know if you spoke to this earlier, but I think it's worth emphasizing that, you've held off on using these chatbots in order to work with partners to build the AI into the platforms you're already using. And from a security standpoint, I think that just makes so much sense. Was that something you consciously chose to do?
That's something we've just always had a philosophy about doing. Like we always said, if we could build the technology, we'd build a technology company. We're people. So we build the people business, and we have to partner with the technologists out there, right? So that's just been an acknowledgement of what we're good at and what our talent is. And then you see these names around. Well, you might not be able to see the names around the room, but seeing all these partners' flags around the room, it just re-emphasizes that. And when you get to meet those people, the rest of you tonight, and we got to meet a bunch of them last night, hopefully you guys will see why we've picked that path. Sorry you can't be here to do that, Blake, but you know lots of these folks as well, so.
Yes, I miss you all, and hopefully next year.
Yeah, thank you, Blake, for being here. I will just say one parting thing. When we were thinking about this segment and we were thinking about AI, this is the same thing we went through when cloud comes out, and it can really spook a lot of people. And I have to tell you, Kenji and I have spent a lot of time thinking about how we continue to improve our profession and our people's roles and lives. I remember we went so far as 7 years ago, because cloud was going to do away with all of our jobs. 7 years ago, we went to a managed service provider conference because IT was a system we had seen shrink, right? So we literally went with a bunch of IT folks to see what MSP providers were doing in order to prepare for this great cloud awakening. It's something we don't take lightly. And it's something that we think we have a pretty good sense of how to push ourselves forward. When you look at the initiatives for 2024, you can see it kind of pervasive throughout, right? It's how do we take actionable insights, right? So we're going to be thinking about AI and how we do actionable insights, specifically helping the team leads identify when they can jump in and help you, and on accounts and give extra air cover to stuff. How can we be more people focused? We think this is going to require a lot of training and making sure that you guys are aware and thoughtful. We get to see a lot of first views of things. Like we got to see Bill stuff before it's out. We got to see Intuit stuff before it's out. Now we're seeing Process Street even before it's out. So we get first view. We need to make sure that when it comes out, we're reinforcing that with you guys and saying, okay, this is the way we're recommending using it. The last thing we want to do in Process Street is to wreak havoc and make Patty die, with all the Process Street changes. And now she's managing 17,000 different workflows. But we don't want to get behind. We want to be thoughtful about how we're doing these things. So we take that very seriously. So we wanted today, and we hope we accomplished it for this session, we wanted to bring and put on display some of the best minds that are thinking about this in the tech space, and just let you know that we're in good hands. We're in good hands. We've picked the right strategy. We're going to continue to be side by side with them. We're doing betas. We're giving them feedback. We're on the front edge of the curiosity here, but we are nothing if we're not measured. We're not going to be reckless with our clients' data, but we're not going to get also caught behind the 8 ball on this. So I appreciate just having all of you guys here, Ted and Blake in particular. Thank you for taking times out of your schedules to do this. Blake Oliver, thank you for moderating with me. We got a break now until about 4:20, and then we'll come back for our keynote.